And Homeland Security is conducting what it calls a massive investigation into alleged fraud in Minnesota's Somali community. A viral video claims to expose misuse of taxpayer money that was supposed to be spent on social services. Now, federal agents say they're going door to door to investigate, as the state's Democratic governor is pushing back on allegations that he's ignored the issue. Minneapolis Star-Tribune senior investigative reporter Jeff Meitrodt is here for more on that. Jeff, thanks so much for coming on. You know, our ABC affiliate KSTP reported on license violations at some of these sites back in January. They revealed 62 investigations involving federally funded Minnesota child care centers. And I know that you've investigated this in depth, too. So what are the facts at this point, and what's new now?
Well, it's been 10 years of fraud here in Minnesota. This daycare program that was the target of this most recent video was the first state overseen program that led to fraud charges back in 2014 through 2017. They built 10 different cases back then. Unfortunately, most of those people got a slap on the wrist, which really may have only emboldened the fraudsters. And since then, there have been frauds involving a state-operated meals program that's supposed to feed hungry poor children, and now housing programs, autism programs. It's really a spiraling crisis here.
And President Trump brought this up a few weeks ago when talking about ICE targeting Somali immigrants in Minneapolis. He also said, quote, "Their country stinks and we don't want them in our country." How big of a problem is fraud in the Somali community there, and how are Somali Americans there responding?
Minnesota is home to the largest Somali population in the United States. You know, there's over 100,000 Somalis here. And as you know, when you go into this community, what you realize is that the vast majority of them obviously are appalled at what's happening and wish that the spotlight was not on their community. At the same time, most of the fraudsters who have been caught so far are of East African or Somali descent. And so, they're immigrants that are coming here. They don't know our system too well. And many of them, they come from a culture where fraud is very common. And unfortunately, they've encountered state government here where the guardrails have really not been strong enough.
Republicans have been criticizing the Democratic Governor Tim Walz over this, saying he basically ignored this. His office insists he's been working for years to crack down on fraud. So what have you learned about how state officials have tried to address this and what more needs to be done?
Well, I think one of the most frustrating things for a lot of folks here in Minnesota, which, has always been described as a state that works, right? This is a place known for good government. It's not Louisiana. It's not Illinois, two places I worked before, where you might expect these kinds of public corruption things to be happening. This is Minnesota, where these things aren't supposed to happen, which sort of lays into the extra sort of shockingness of this whole situation. However, when you dig into really what happened here, and we have done several investigations, it's clear that the state officials ignored whistleblowers, very credible whistleblowers, who came forward with allegations of misconduct before any of the money in what we call the Feeding Our Future scandal was paid out. And the state basically told those whistleblowers, thanks, but no thanks. They sent them to other places. And for, I think, a couple of years, there was really a lot of concern by members of the public, but it seemed like the state government wasn't showing the same sort of sense of urgency that it is today. Now here we are going into an election year, and suddenly fraud is all anybody's talking about, both Democrats and Republicans. And I think the administration is now making some really good efforts to try to get a handle on this problem, change some of the way these things work. But for a lot of folks, it's too little too late.
So how big of a political issue is this for Walz and Minnesota Democrats?
It's a huge issue. I've talked to many Democrats who have supported Walz in both of his previous runs, loved the fact that he was running for president, and are really having trouble thinking about supporting him for a third time. There's a lot of comparisons to Joe Biden about, is he going to harm the party by continuing to run? So I think those are some real live sort of concerns for this administration. Walz is doing what he can to, I think, repair some of the damage. What they did yesterday by responding so quickly to this video, that really impressed a lot of people. I mean, there are some great sort of credibility issues with this video, but at the same time, the government was like, you know what? Despite our concerns about sort of the tactics that were used in this video, it does raise questions, legitimate questions about these sites, and bang, they were out there knocking on doors and doing site inspections. As soon as the thing started yesterday, not waiting for months to see what the feds might do. They got on top of it right away.